Is this card the next broken thing to hit Magic Online, or is this just an X1 that dies to Orcish Bowmasters? Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and as you all know, a lot of the cards from older sets are finally making their way to Magic Online this week with the release of WOE, Wilds of Eldraine. And Harper Recruiter is a card that I have been waiting for a very long time to play. It is a 3/1 flyer. When it attacks, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can reveal a Cleric, Rogue, Warrior, and or Wizard card from among them and put those cards into your hand. Then you put the rest on the bottom of your library. So I want to focus on the words and or there. That means if in Magical Christmas Land you reveal a Cleric, Rogue, Warrior, and Wizard, you can put 4 cards into your hand from this trigger every turn. Now, in reality, that's not going to happen, right? Like, there's plenty of things that, like Lotus Petal and Chrome Mox and lands in your deck, and there are going to be some creatures in your deck that maybe don't fit these creature types. But this is an incredibly powerful way to refuel in an initiative-style deck list. And I think I'm going to flip directly to the deck list today to talk about some things here. And this video is sponsored by moxfield.com as well as Cool Stuff Inc. And if you end up needing to buy some Harper Recruiters in paper, use promo code ThrabenU at checkout to save 5%. So this is the deck list in all of its glory. And the first thing that I want to do is just kind of gloss over some creature types that you might not be super familiar with unless you just play an absolute ton of Legacy. This is a Warrior. This is a Rogue. This is a Rogue. Hey, that card that we're talking about today, it can find more copies of itself. Anointed Peacekeeper, Annoying Hate Bear, also a Cleric. Phyrexian Censor, Wizard. Guess what? Wizard's on that list as well. And even some weirder things, like, do you think of this as a Rogue? Well, you can find that off of a trigger. The same is true for Containment Priest, which is a Cleric. This card provides a ton of utility. There usually aren't a lot of flyers in these sorts of initiative deck lists. And this gives you a flyer attached to a source of card advantage that you can play as early as turn 1. Now, there was a time in Legacy where you could also use this to find White Plume Adventurer. And when those timelines lined up, this was a really cool thing to potentially be doing. However, we now live in a world that is largely defined by blue-black X decks, and Orcish Bowmaster is one of the most played cards in the format. So I'm a little worried that we might have missed the window on Harper Recruiter being good. And that's what I'm here to find out today. Like, is this card as good as I thought it was when I first saw it spoiled? Or is this something where, like, it took too long coming to Magic Online and now it's not exactly going to be great? Let's find out. I'm not sure about the specifics of this deck list. There's like 2 Japanese players who have been messing around with this white-black shell for quite some time, and I kind of rammed their lists together and made a few changes of my own as far as the sideboard goes, and I think I've presented something reasonable here today. But again, we were waiting for this card to come to Magic Online so we could get eyeballs on it and really get a feel. Is this good? So let's jump into it and let's find out. Let's battle. Phil from the future. If you take a look down below at the old YouTube bar, you'll probably notice that there is a bonus round listed. That is the final round of my mono black helm. So after this video concludes normally, there's one more extra round for you all, and you can see the results of my league from yesterday. Not that silly little tournament practice room match. So it's round 1, and I have the opportunity to play turn 1 Harper Recruiter. It is almost certainly not the correct play. And I'm going to show restraint here and play Anointed Peacekeeper first, but know that this is very hard on me. I want to play the new card, but I think I'm supposed to just play the generic Hate Bear first. And we will obviously go and imprint one of the 2 copies of Seasoned Dungeoneer, and begin the game with this. My opponent has Grief and Reanimate, and Orcish Bowmasters. And Wasteland, for that matter. I think I am naming Reanimate here. I think that's the card that easily scares me the most. Note that this does not fully stop my opponent from casting it. It slows it down by 2 turns. And my opponent may end up just pitching it to the Grief to take a card from my hand. And then we will end up in the Harper Recruiter dies to Bowmasters stage of the game. So my opponent got rid of Orcish Bowmasters there to cast the Grief. So Harper Recruiter is live if I draw a Soul Land. Whoa! I am so surprised at what just went down. I thought for sure they would want to put Seasoned Dungeoneer into the graveyard to like have the ability to reanimate that later in the game. I am good with that. All right. There's the Tarn. I already saw the Wasteland played. And there goes Ponder. That's a shuffle. Love seeing that. Need a land on my end. Like basic swamp, if I can be picky. Cavern of Souls on human, also pretty spicy here. There goes the Delta. Reanimates online next turn. Fatal Push. Yes. Meaning Reanimate is online this turn. Again, though, like my opponent reanimating a Seasoned Dungeoneer here would just be batshit insane. Like, I think that's much better than picking up Grief and taking another card out of my hand. Alright, I've lost Seasoned Dungeoneer now. That's awkward. Am I doing that? I don't think so. I think I'm just going to take a couple hits from Grief. I would very much like to cast this Harper Recruiter. Opposition Agent is much harder to cast as of right now. There's a new Underground Sea. And again, fine taking some damage from Grief. It's probably not going to kill me. That is a Swamp. I want this to be Dazeable? Not really. I think I'm going to use Opposition Agent as Daze bait. A little awkward, because like, I want to play this in my opponent's end step. But that might result in them getting an extra fetch. Maybe I should play it in second main. Oh, well, okay. That's a great time. Yes, I have succeeded in baiting Daze. So that Harper Recruiter can actually resolve. I guess I should not. F6. Ooh, oh, fuck. I misclicked a button. That's so incredibly costly. I meant to click yield until end of turn, and I clicked yield until next end step. That's frustrating. I missed 3 damage with Harper Recruiter, and potentially multiple card draws because of that misclick. Alright, we're going to move on with our life, though. Cavern on Human. Play Harper Recruiter. And pass the turn. Yep, this is what I did not want to see. After playing Harper Recruiter. And it's unclear whether or not that turn cycle cost me a Harper Recruiter trigger and 3 damage. I am going to try to wait a turn and draw another land to play Solitude so that I can use both Solitudes, as that would be just so much better for me. That's kind of like a land. I'm going to play that. I'm going to pass the turn. I think I do this in my opponent's upkeep, though. I don't think I give them another draw. I just don't think I can give them another draw here when this game is so tight. That is Hardcast Force of Will. This represents 5 damage of my 6 life, which is not great. I'm at 1. Very cool, Ancient Tomb. GG's. Yeah, so we saw one of my fears coming true, and that is Harper Recruiter just dying to Orcish Bowmasters. Cavern on Orc is pretty reasonable here. Path to Exile is a respectable thing to board in. Chalice is medium. I have to decide whether or not I want to play Chalice for this matchup. It stops Reanimate, which is cool. Doesn't stop Murktide Regent. Doesn't stop Hardcast Griefs. Maybe it's reasonable in the play. I don't love it on the draw. Opposition Agent is a little hard to cast if I'm getting Wastelanded. I mean, the honest answer here is probably that I am supposed to board out Harper Recruiter as it is an X1 instead of Chalice of the Void and just bring in a couple of other bodies. Do I want to Containment Priest as well in this matchup to shut off Reanimate? Doing so shuts off my Throne of the Dead 3. Not overly excited about an X2. I'm going to board out 1 Harper Recruiter for 1 Containment Priest. Turn 1 Cavern of Souls. Turn 2 Phyrexian Censor. Turn 3 Phyrexian Censor, even if I get Wastelanded, is perfectly reasonable. I don't think it's the higher end of what this deck is capable of, but it's perfectly reasonable. All right, let's play Cavern. Cavern on Phyrexian, call it a turn. Some portion of the time I just get Wastelanded this turn and we reset the game. Oh, Grief Pitching Troll. That is happening. I have 2 business spells in this hand, so if my opponent Grief and then Reanimates, this is pretty rough for me. So one of them's down. And not looking good for the home team here. Oh, cool. That's blue mana. That's fine. I mean, like I say, it's fine, but it's really not fine. Like, I have 4 lands in play after that happened. Ugh. Yeah. And if my opponent just reanimates a troll next turn, like that will outclock what I'm doing without some additional help. Second land drop. Okay. Deck, please. We will be crashing in. My situation is incredibly bad, and I've got to just try to take advantage of that. Oof. Okay. I don't think I'm supposed to make a land drop here. Like, what I have now allows me to do something like Uncounterable Seasoned Dungeoneer. Fuck. No. If I draw it. Whereas if I play a land, I don't have that possibility. That is reanimating a Grief. I'm not 100% sure that is the plan. Like, my hand clearly sucks, right? Like, very clearly. I don't know that that's better than just grabbing a troll and trying to end the game. Okay, here's the exact line that I was playing towards. It's awkward if my opponent has another removal spell. I think I just have to go for it, though. Name human. Grab Seasoned Dungeoneer. And again, I'm in a lot of trouble if my opponent has another Snuff Out. If we trade the initiative back and forth, I'm okay with that. That probably favors me, but 1 removal spell just ends the game in favor of my opponent, I think, after I kind of flooded out like I did. I have a basic plains in hand. I will grab a swamp accordingly. I wonder if I'm going to end up going to Lost Well. I'm definitely going to think about it. We've got an island. Fetch, Fatal Push would be bad. Snuff Out would be bad. A bounce spell would be bad. I don't mind another creature. I outrace another creature a good portion of the time. There's the island. Oh, are we Murktiding? We are Murktiding. A Ravenloft Adventurer. Okay. Do I want to play that pre-combat so that I can attack with a forged up creature? If I attack with a forged up creature, I gain 2 damage. And then I trap next turn. So I attack for either 5 or 6 damage if I hit the trigger. I think I want the damage right now. Maybe that's not true. Getting to Archives matters a lot. Yeah, I think getting to Archives matters a lot given how bad my hand is. All right. I want to put Solitude into my graveyard. Honestly, yeah, I probably do. It's not castable right now. I need to play City of Traders this turn. All right. I take the initiative back. I will go to Forge. I will forge this up and turn it into a lethal threat. In second main, I will play City of Traders and trap my opponent down to 2 life. They are at 2. Seasoned Dungeoneer can give very relevant protection. And I'm threatening Throne of the Dead 3 pretty soon if my opponent like pumps on the brakes as far as their attacks go. All right. Brainstorm's got some work to do. And my opponent has me on a 3-turn clock, whereas I have them on a 1-turn clock. There's a fetch land, so they can clear this. Reanimate is fully offline this game. They're thinking about attacks. This would not be a surprising attack, right? Because they can forge up Murktide Regent and make it larger to kind of mess with some of my attack math a little bit. Make a single removal spell much better, depending on whether or not Seasoned Dungeoneer does things. So if my opponent has no removal spell, they are always dead. If my opponent has one removal spell, whether or not Seasoned Dungeoneer hits matters a lot. Because the difference between the 7/8 and not the 7/8 is huge. I can't hold back, because if I hold back, my opponent has 15 damage, so like I am just attacking. So here we go. Send both. This trigger happens. Maybe the attack with both was bad. No, I guess it's required. Well, kind of. I'll do it on Seasoned Dungeoneer. My opponent has the single removal spell, though. Don't they just like use it on Seasoned Dungeoneer prior to the attack? Yeah, you just do that on Seasoned Dungeoneer prior to the attack. And then the win is on board. This line results in me getting another draw. So I take the initiative back. I get to go to Archives and draw a card. It is unfortunately a card that does not matter on this board state. Yeah, so like holding back the one blocker doesn't actually stop Grief or Murktide or Trap from doing anything. Although I guess if I hold it back and my opponent does exactly play a bounce spell, I have a secondary blocker for Grief, and I can go to 2. Sure. But then there's like weird situations where like, what if they have Stifle or something? Yeah, and this is not a legal block. Wah, 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 wah. So I am dead. We flooded out a little bit this game, unfortunately. But there is still definitely play here. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and I personally keep all of my deck lists for every format on this site. I love that I can go and sort them by types and tags if I need to. There's a lot of different viewing options. It can give you some math about your mana symbol, your curve, and you can even playtest and do sample opening hands with it. Check this site out if you haven't before. It's awesome. My round 2 opening hand does not have enough mana to be functional. This is not a mulligan, but it's kind of a disappointing hand. We'll keep it pitching the Ravenloft Adventurer. And we really hope that Chalice of the Void does some lifting in getting me out of the early game here. Because then I can play like Opposition Agent into Seasoned Dungeoneer, and like that's very reasonable. Oh, okay. Chalice is probably going to be very good if we are playing against an Enchantress deck. Is there a world where I want to Opposition Agent in this turn cycle instead? Probably not. Chalice matters a lot, except when my opponent has something that makes their enchantments uncounterable, which can happen with Destiny Spinner. Argothian Enchantress is fine. Now, these will still draw cards. And now my primary question is, like, do I play Opposition Agent as a minor, and I mean minorly disruptive card, or do I just jam the card that starts winning me the game? And I think I jam the card that starts winning me the game. I'm going to go on human. I guess Green Sun matters a lot. I'm going to sorcery speed this. I don't want my opponent to successfully get a fetch off. I'm not sure whether or not this play is correct, because like it is not clear whether or not my opponent is a Green Sun build as of right now. Both Seiju, sure. Get a scrub into play. I lose the Opposition Agent. It's a great turn cycle for my opponent. No attacks with Argothian Enchantress. We'll Seasoned Dungeoneer. Use it to grab a plains and call it a turn. Alright, they're going for the fetch now. And we'll see how nutty this gets. My opponent now gets 2 card draws. But at the end of the day, I still do have the Undercity. That is scary. This represents a tutor, and it means that I can't remove their enchantments anymore. I definitely need to be scrying. Both these cards are quite good as of right now. I think I need this one first. But we will top both of these. Play that on Phyrexian. And my opponent gets 1 spell a turn. Harper Recruiter has a big moment to potentially shine here. This is another exile, right? Yep, that's another exile. This is unfortunate. There's the green sun for presumably Destiny Spinner. And that will definitely kill me in short order, right? Like, that represents 6 damage this turn, and my opponent getting the initiative. How many enchantments does my opponent actually have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana. Activate those twice. Yeah, that's fine. I am comfortable conceding here. Their creature removal lined up very well against what I was doing. I am interested in Lauren. Elite Spellbinder's probably good enough. Plague Engineer's probably good enough. Containment Priest is borderline, and I will consider it. Orcish Bowmaster is quite good. Solitude, pretty bad here. I might still need to play a copy or two to respect Destiny Spinner getting into play, but I really don't want this card because so much of my opponent's stuff is going to have Shroud. Not all of it will, though. Is it Calyx? There's the green-white legendary Enchantress card that Solitude could remove. I'm not super excited about Ravenloft Adventurer. I'm not super excited about Solitude. The rest of this stuff looks legit. So if I board in everything that I was talking about, this is 8 cards. Down 1 Harper is, I think, reasonable. This hand goes Chromox, Lotus Petal, play Bowmasters, and that's all I've got going for me. I don't think that's reasonable. Turn 1 on the play, Opposition Agent. Pray. Hand's quite bad. I don't know that it is worth mulliganing, though, so here we are. With another land, playing Bear into Bear is pretty reasonable. I'm just going to Sorcery Speed this. No risks, cannot let my opponent fetch. The difference between them having a plains or not is night and day different. That is a forest. We did not spike the land to play a second creature, unfortunately. So my opponent can slip a Enchantress effect into play this turn under the Peacekeeper. All right. Well, we knew the hand was bad when we kept it. That's the good news. Wait, that's not good news at all. That is a Destiny Spinner, which I am not going to be great at answering. That also successfully blocks Opposition Agent. All right, I did hit a land. I can't let my opponent fetch. We're going to go ahead and play Anointed Peacekeeper. That will be able to attack into Destiny Spinner. All right, I don't care about Force of Vigor. Sterling Grove is not castable off of white. I guess since my opponent has 2, I'll name Enchantress's Presence. And then we'll pass a turn. I don't want to endanger Opposition Agent. That gives my opponent access to both white and 3 mana, and I don't want either of those things happening. There's another Destiny Spinner. That sucks for me. Because now if I attack with Anointed Peacekeeper, my opponent can double block, and I trade 1 Destiny Spinner for this, so I don't think my attack is good. I'm going to wait until I can play Lauren and blow up 1 Destiny Spinner and then get in there, but my whole plan with this keep was to be aggroing my opponent down before they can draw out, and that's not happening. All right. My opponent needs to exile this Chrome Mox with this trigger on the stack. And they did, pitching 1 copy of Enchantress's Presence. Obviously not going to imprint. I have to pass the turn here. Alright. 3rd mana is online. Okay. So this is very good for me. I think I am most interested in Seasoned Dungeoneer here, rather than Lauren. So let's play that. Go for a land. Go to combat, and now I can attack with some degree of protection. This also has Vigilance, which is super relevant here. I will not put Lauren into my graveyard. I am totally happy to have a 2nd copy of that card. Opponent's at 10. There's a Wild Growth. Still no white mana. Lots of bodies here, though. Alright. So I'm going to forge up a creature. For sure. I think I forge up Opposition Agent. I just need everything to be just a little bit better. So I will cast Lauren. I will blow up a Destiny Spinner. I will now attack with everything. I would like to guarantee that the Opposition Agent gets in, as it is the largest amount of damage. Chalice of the Void. I will put that into my graveyard. I think we're past the point in the game where that matters. My opponent will take 9 damage. So that fetch land is officially off in other ways now. And we'll call it a turn. Alright, we won that one. So this game I learned that my opponent does have multiple copies of Destiny Spinner, which makes Solitude slightly more interesting. Am I supposed to play Harper Recruiter here? Like, it is an evasive creature which draws me the cards that I need, but I'm unsure whether or not Solitude is better than Harper Recruiter. Like, Harper Recruiter finds me hate cards, but I'm never going to deploy it before the hate card. It's really awkward that I need both Solitude and Chalice at the same time. Yeah, I'm cutting the card that I'm here to test. I'm unhappy to hear that. But I think it's what I gotta do. This hand does not make a play on turn 1. That said, it has really good cards. I'm gonna keep it. It's possible a mulligan is correct, though. Alright. So my opponent will have access to both of their colors. I'm gonna play Scrubland and pass. I don't think I need to play Chrome Mox this turn. I also don't think I have to commit to a Cavernous Souls color yet. Sithis. Sithis is the name of the card that I was looking for. This one itself is an enchantment, by the way. We are going to cast a Chrome Mox. I'll probably put an Elite Spellbinder under here. And I think I just get rid of the immediate source of card advantage with Lauren. Like, it's very tempting to just... Whoa, excuse me? Alright. Was not expecting that. Wow. Alright, there's Sterling Grove. This is now hex-proof. That's pretty respectable. I have a lot of other stuff that can help shut down this game, though. I'd love to draw a Soul Land so I can double spell here. I did not. So which one of these cards is the most important? Probably Phyrexian Censor. Send in with this. Don't think my opponent trades. They go to 19. Do I cast Chrome Mox? I don't think so. It's very possible Containment Priest is better this turn. Note, I can Lauren to have both of us draw a card. I don't know that that's something that I currently actually want to do. Yep. Alright, they're just fetching around Opposition Agent, which is totally reasonable. That is a Scrubland. Send in for 5 damage. Put my opponent to 14. I think I'm just going to play Containment Priest on their turn. Yep. End of turn, we'll throw this into play. That's a Chalice, which is reasonable but awkward because I have exactly 7 power in play. Notably, because I drew the Scrubland last turn, if I had Chrome Moxed one of Elite Spellbinder or Anointed Peacekeeper, I would have been able to double spell last turn 1 on my turn 1 on my opponent's turn. I think this is Anointed Peacekeeper and represent lethal next turn. I think. Or at least force a Sithis block. Destiny Spinner, Utopia Sprawl, Wild Growth. Okay. I mean, I'll name Destiny Spinner for sure. All right. Pass the turn. Notably, Phyrexian Censor is symmetrical. Opponent chooses on Thin Ice. That can get rid of Phyrexian Censor and allow my opponent to play multiple cards this turn, which is scary. And this is the sort of thing that playing the Chalice gets around, but like my opponent doesn't take this line unless I take the line that I took, right? Like if I play Chalice, they just tutor for something else. Sure, it's a lot of mana. There is the Destiny Spinner. Opponent's gaining a lot of life off the Sithis at this point. Second Destiny Spinner. Green mana is kind of a limiting factor here. But my aggro plan is dead, and my opponent will probably activate a Destiny Spinner and end up killing me. And one removal spell doesn't save me. I think at this point my little house of cards has collapsed. I can try to do something about it. My opponent just naturally having the Destiny Spinners instead of potentially needing to search for them was pretty rough here. Solitude. Nice. But with triple Destiny Spinner in play, I don't think that does enough. Huh. Well, that's interesting. The Destiny Spinner does cost more to activate and also cost more to cast, but, you know, that didn't matter too much. So Solitude is going with this. I think pitch casting. I am going to... This doesn't do it. Fucking Destiny Spinners. Like, the Destiny Spinners are just going to activate, create giant things, and I'm going to die to them. Like, I can Solitude to buy a turn, but I can't get 3 Destiny Spinners out of play. I'm not going to out-aggro this Sithis. I am going to concede here. I think my opponent's got this one. So, with this hand, we're basically looking at the absolutely ideal Harper Recruiter hand, right? Where I play a lock piece, I followed up with uncounterable Recruiter, which hopefully is protected. I can Chalice on 0 here. I might just Chalice on 2 on my next turn instead, though. I'll immediately get paired against an artifact deck that plays a bunch of artifact mana for making that decision. Ooh. Yeah. Artifact deck where playing this on 0 would have been correct. My opponent is presumably now going to vomit a bunch of stuff into play. Oh, only one thing. That's not bad. Value. Get to cast my own Lotus Petal. So I will Lotus Petal. I will then Chalice on 0, now that I have a better feel for the matchup. And I will go ahead and put this on human. And we get to see Harper Recruiter hopefully go off. Like, if this guarantees me an initiative creature or other relevant play for the rest of the game, seems good. I mean, like, it's not guaranteed, because you know, there's math and probability involved, but between my draw step and a Harper Recruiter trigger, assuming this thing lives, I should be in pretty good shape. Something's coming. That is a Chalice of the Void on 1. Sure. Into Emery. Emery only finds Bauble. Now, Bauble can still grow Patchwork Automaton. Like, that is still very much a thing that matters, but Emery not getting the card out of it matters a lot here. My opponent is considering whether or not I would trade. The answer is no way in fuck would I trade, but they don't know that. So I respect not attacking. So let's send in with this. Classic. Done. My opponent goes to 13. So I can just bounce Emery with my mana in this turn cycle. Or I can just cast Solitude and remove Emery permanently and have a 3/2 lifelinker in play, which I think is actually better. It's worse against a counterspell, but this body in play matters a lot, and I'm hoping to have other things that help me use my mana in the future. I also don't think my opponent has a counterspell unless it's one of the last couple of things that they drew. Note that this has Ward 2, which is why I'm not targeting it. All right, another Patchwork Automaton. That can definitely get scary. And Thoughtcast. All right. New Emery. I can bounce that one. I will take 4 damage. I can gain 3 back immediately on my turn, so, like, it's okay. All right. Go to combat. Go to attacks. I'm going to let the Harper Recruiter trigger resolve. All right. All right. After that, we will just go ahead and bounce Emery here. Not let my opponent get a free block in. My opponent takes 6. I will play an Ancient Tomb and pass. So this is my opponent's 3rd Patchwork Automaton. I just noticed that they milled over a 3rd. So they might be running the full set. A lot of recent lists have only been on 2 of those. All right. So one of those Patchwork Automatons has officially outscaled my Solitude. Don't love seeing Urza Saga. My opponent is ultimately on a 2-turn clock, though. And I'm not sure that they can continue to be the beatdown. Oh? Sure. I'll take that too. Don't love that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I could play this and put it on Elemental, but I don't think I want to do that. Like, I would rather just attempt to draw with Harper Recruiter. Let's see if we get anything. All right, there we go. I will choose a warrior, a wizard, and a rogue. Done. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted this whole time, right? This puts my opponent to 3. I probably just do uncounterable Phyrexian Censor this turn so that my opponent only gets 1 spell in their turn and can't chain together a bunch of like thought monitors and stuff. I think that's what I'm into. Name Phyrexian and drop that creature. And then next turn I have Lethal in the Air, and Phyrexian Censor can also attack off of a Seasoned Dungeoneer trigger to guarantee lethal that way as well. So I think my opponent would need, like, yeah, okay. So Harper Recruiter, on average, drew 1 card per trigger. They just came bunched up at the end. So Lauren is great. Stony Silence is great. Path is great. Plague Engineer is something I can consider, but I don't know that I'm actually going to play it. My opponent probably has fewer cards like Sigh if they are playing Patchwork Automatons. So Opposition Agent doesn't have a lot of text here. It can stop Urza Saga searches. That's about it. Bowmasters is pretty respectable. Anointed Peacekeepers is medium. I do think I need to board in these remaining 3 cards. I think that means Ravenloft Adventurer goes. The black cards are just a little bit harder to cast than the white cards, so if I can go down on them, it smooths out my mana a bit. I'm going to keep this hand. In theory, it represents turn 1 path a creature while playing Chalice on 0 and turn 2 Phyrexian Censor. I'll still need more off the top, and it's not like this is a Stony Silence hand where it just neuters my opponent's ability to do anything, but I think this is good enough. Sure. Yep. I'm totally happy with how this is playing out so far. My opponent knows about Solitude. Do I want to hold up Path on my opponent's turn, or do I want Phyrexian Censor to always be uncounterable next turn? I guess let's start by playing my Chalice on 0 and seeing if that resolves. It does not. Pitching Metallic Rebuke. I'm going to hold up Path. I'm not really sure that I want to put my Cavern on Phyrexian after I draw that Solitude, I think I'm going to be hard casting that Solitude, and this is my second white. No creature. We're jamming a card here. I think it's Phyrexian Censor. Like it attacks for 3. It makes blockers come in tapped, and clears Dismember apparently. This is fine with me. What are we looking at? We are looking at a Sigh. Which, since my opponent is not casting anything, I will just Path to Exile that. A little awkward. I don't think I am going to Anointed Peacekeeper this turn. So let's Path Sigh out of the way. And I think this is going on Elemental. I don't have to commit it this turn. I could play Swamp instead. So I guess I will. Just in case I pivot. This is not a normal pace for this game. Sure, that's fine. There's a Lotus Petal. Doesn't do a ton here. I don't know that I commit to killing Thought Monitor right now. I'm going to play Anointed Peacekeeper. Put this on Elemental for the future, though. Then we'll see what's going on over there. Otawara, Thoughtcast, and Shadow Spear. I'd probably just name this Shadow Spear to make my opponent sink more mana into getting that functional. Because I get 2 mana on cast, 2 mana on activate. But if my opponent dedicates resources towards this, I'm probably good with that, right? Because then I just Solitude the creature that gets equipped. Yeah, I'll go ahead and just name Thoughtcast then. Note a fun little rules interaction here. If you have something like Affinity that reduces the cost, you can use cost reduction to power through a tax for something like this or Athalia. And that can definitely be relevant. So there's my opponent paying some extra mana for the Thoughtcast. And they can go in on the equip here and gain a little bit of life back, which is fine by me. I've got a Solitude to take out this critter. And they're going to crack a bobble. You've seen my Solitude that I very clearly telegraphed already. So they get their card. It's not what I'm looking for. I'll send in for some damage. I'm going to immediately undo all of the damage that I do, unfortunately, though. I'll throw this in play. I'm fine playing the City of Traders. And I'm going to do this now to reduce the number of artifacts my opponent controls by 1. Because it does matter for additional copies of something like a Thought Monitor. In theory, assuming my opponent has no more creatures, they are on a 2-turn clock. However, there is also an Otawara in their hand, which they can use to bounce one of my creatures. Ooh, we're getting Kappaed. So they'll go to 10. Kappa Cannoneer plus Shadow Spear is probably going to handily beat me. Another Solitude would be pretty legit. That's another Solitude. Let's double check my mana here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep. So cast Solitude uncounterably. Target Kappa, which triggers the ward. And my opponent concedes the match. So we're on the board with our Harper Recruiter. Okay. I am mana light with this hand. I can play a turn 1 Harper Recruiter, but then I have no way to actually deploy the additional cards that I draw. If I slow this hand down a little bit, I could do something like Chrome Mox, imprint either Seasoned Dungeoneer or Solitude, play Chalice on 1 as my first play, and I have a little bit more time, and I'm not forced into committing Lotus Petal. I really have a couple draws to hit lands or another petal or whatever. Maybe this is actually okay. I'm going to have to make some good calls, though, on what my opponent's deck is doing. Okay. I probably got a lot easier. So we're probably playing against a Moonstompy deck list. So would I like to YOLO this hand on playing turn 1 Harper Recruiter? The answer is probably no. I'm going to play my artifact mana this turn. So I'm going to play Lotus Petal. I get mooned, I need a white card under Chrome Mox. Blech. I want to play Chalice on 0 this turn. Kind of. I'm gonna get bit in the butt if my opponent Chalice on 0s, but I'm not comfortable committing this Chrome Mox yet. I'm in this really awkward situation where if my opponent Blood Moons, I need to imprint a white card under there, not a black card. Ooh, we're playing against a Storm deck. I need Chalice on 0 instead. Opponent found Rite of Flame. Understood. So now I know that I don't have to worry about Blood Moon, so I can imprint one of these Ravenloft Adventurers. So now, since my opponent specifically tutored for Rite of Flame, I may be Chalice on 1 rather than Chalice on 0. By Chalice on 0, it shuts off some of my relevant draws. That allows me to play other important cards. Just going to relay. We are Burgying, which I will Solitude. 100%. Cool. Wish I could pitch my Ravenloft Adventure. That's the card that I don't want. Alright. Just in case my opponent's doing something weird, I'm going to grab a basic Plains here. Basically free for me to do so. I'm going to Solitude. Sorry, Harper Recruiter. I don't think this is the time for you. It's just very slow here, and I want to turbo this game being over. Like, Harper Recruiter could draw me into a Hate Bear, which is relevant. But I think instead this game is about playing Seasoned Dungeoneer into Ravenloft Adventurer and just, like, forging and trapping as quickly as possible. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's what it feels like from my side. So I will forge the Seasoned Dungeoneer. Found another one. Let's just go ahead and crack on in and see what's coming here. Cavern of Souls. Sure. And then I will drop another one. So now I will drop my opponent to 13. I have 8 showing, maybe 10 next turn. And I will Throne of the Dead 3 next turn as well. So this turn is my opponent's opportunity to win. We've got an Ancient Tomb into a Burgy. And they're going for it. Oof, that's rough for them, because they've already played their land drop for this turn. There's a Burning Wish as follow-up. My opponent's only on 2 mana here. Finding Fiery Confluence. And they're going to Galvanic Relay. Sure. So my opponent could have gotten one more Storm, right? Like, they have a Rite of Flame. I guess I should look at this stuff. Okay. Go to Archives. Kind of miss. I'll go ahead and ship on in. 1 trigger targets the one on the left. 1 trigger targets the one on the right. Solitude removing Burgy is good, but my opponent has access to another. I'm going to put that into my graveyard and try to look for a Phyrexian Censor instead. Seasoned Dungeoneer. Yeah, I'll put that into my graveyard. This puts my opponent to 1. Now I will make a land drop and drop this, which allows me to look at the top 10. Well, Orcish Bowmasters is pretty decent here. Let's take that one. We'll ping my opponent for that last point. Yeah, I didn't even realize how good finding Bowmasters would be. But we also found the Phyrexian Censor, which also would have been very, very good. All right. Chalice of the Void is a little awkward in this matchup in that, like, 0 and 1 both are, like, not great numbers. I'm probably still going to end up playing that card anyway. Lauren is great. Elite Spellbinder is great. Stony Silence is fine. Path to Exile is fine. Plague Engineer can hedge against goblins specifically, but otherwise is kind of eh. In this matchup, I don't really like Opposition Agent, and I'm not the biggest fan of Ravenloft Adventurer here. Most of the rest of this stuff looks reasonable. This would give me one of these cards. I probably just play all the copies of Stony Silence. My opponent's not actually drawing that many cards. Like, there's Manamorphose in there, but they're doing more exile draw. I'm probably junk Bowmasters. like for Stony and Path. Again, shutting off the artifact mana is only medium. There's a lot of ritual-based mana and Burgy stuff. This can be my 60. I can keep one Bowmaster or play one Plague Engineer. I think I'll keep one Bowmaster. It comes down earlier. This hand feels entirely too slow to me. It's only medium if my opponent has a Burgy hand, right? Like I can bounce Burgy with Karakas and eventually path it, but I would rather try to play something like this on turn 1. This is a keep. I have to figure out what to do with it. Do I get rid of the Cavern? I kind of want my plan to be turn 1, Chrome Mox, pitch Solitude, play Harper Recruiter, Chalice on 0, and then Chalice on 2 sometime in the not too distant world beyond that. I think I'm going to get rid of Cavern. Keep a second Chalice. My opponent plays turn 1 Burgy. I might have to pivot the hand. Oh, my opponent thinks I have discard. Okay. My opponent mulliganed to that. All right. Cast Chrome Mox. Imprint Solitude. Cast Harper Recruiter. Cast a Chalice of the Void on 0. This is a very powerful start. Now I use Harper Recruiter to try to find like Phyrexian Censor and other things of that nature to just lock up the game for myself. Harper Recruiter is hopefully going to look really sexy right here. Come on, bird friend. Ha ha! Yes. Done. All right. So, do I play Chalice of the Void on 2 first to stop Burning Wish for big artifact destroy thing? I don't think so. I'm not sure how much it matters, if I'm being honest. This just puts more power into play immediately. There's a Burning Wish. Or Fiery Confluence. Sure. I've got another one for later. That's pretty dope. So I'll Harper Recruiter again. These are both clerics, right? If I play Anointed Peacekeeper and just name Fiery Confluence, that probably just ends my opponent, right? Pretty much. I'm down with that. Brings my opponent to 11. I will play Anointed Peacekeeper. Note that this is an opponent. This does not target, and my opponent has given us the lols and the GG. All right, Harper Recruiter did some really good stuff there. All right, I can play a Chalice on 1, but then my hand does nothing. I'm just going to ship this one here. So this does a Chalice on 1, on turn 1, and then can play Orcish Bowmasters if I put Cavern on Orc. However, the way that I'm probably supposed to play this is turn 1 Chalice on 1, imprinting Seasoned Dungeoneer, put this card on Human so that I can curve Peacekeeper into Peacekeeper. That's how I win this game. I am going to need to spike a land to have a functional hand, unfortunately. I'm comfortable keeping this, though. Seasoned Dungeoneer under. Cavern on Human. Drop the Chalice. I'm very bad against Wasteland here. Uh-huh. Yeah, alright. Soul Land. We'll hold that. Alright, we're probably playing against Delver or something Delver adjacent. Alright. So, kind of the big thing here is like, how much does this Chalice actually hurt my opponent? Oh. Sure. Okay. Notably a Phyrexian. This is also a Phyrexian. Alright, so my opponent is just yeeting a Brainstorm to put an oil counter on Mercurial Spelldancer. We're going to cast a a Lightning Bolt to put another counter on this. Now they're going to go ahead and just crash in. So they can remove 2 oil counters. I don't imagine that they are this turn. Cool, cool, cool. We'll see if my opponent removes oil counters this turn, or if this was just working towards like a hypothetical Murktide Regent. All right, they have removed. They're going to cast a Ponder. So they do get to go ahead and copy that Ponder The copy was not cast, so that copy will resolve. And then one of those oil counters does come back. All right. Not my game. Understood. Memo received. What, we're 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we're 5 draws deep without hitting a land. Okay, sure. If they are going to copy this turn, they do. My Chalice of the Void's not looking the best here. That feels like a very aggressive use of a lightning bolt to me. All right. Cool. I'll cast a Lotus Petal. I'm doing that as to not discard. Although, honestly, it may be better to just have discarded there so that if my opponent Force of Wills that Lotus Petal, that they don't have another counter on this to copy another spell. I'm at 9. Okay, I get to cast spells. I think I'm interested in trying Peacekeeper here. See what my opponent has to say about this. Opponent going for Daze. I will attempt to pay. I assume this is now hard cast another Daze, which it is. Right, like opponent had to have something over there in their hand. Wasteland is very good. It's one of the cards that I really did not want my opponent to have. My City of Traders is so important. Because to win this game, I probably need to play like 3-drop, 3-drop into Seasoned Dungeoneer or something like that. Or just 3-drop into 3-drop into 3-drop. The double Daze was pretty brutal. Yuck. I guess I can still draw like a Solitude or something. But this is highly unfortunate. I'm at 5. Belldancer does the thing. And my opponent will ponder. That is an Ancient Tomb. That's not really what I am looking for. I can technically use this to cast a spell. At this point, it's probably better to not show my opponent some of the weird spells that I am playing. I'm gonna toss in the towel here. I'm not technically dead, but it's real bad. I would like Path to Exile. Plague Engineer is eh. Elite Spellbinder flies and will trade with things like Dragon Rage Channeler. I can think about playing that as well. I am not the most excited about Ravenloft Adventurer here. Not the most excited about Opposition Agent either. If I go light on black cards, I can board like this. I don't think this build is supposed to cut Chalice of the Void versus a Delver or Delver adjacent deck list. I have 20 lands and then 8 other pieces of artifact mana, but I am coming up mana light on so many of these hands. This is exactly what I mean. I think I keep this and pitch Chrome Mox and try to settle in for a longer game. I don't really like this. I don't think I'm supposed to go to 5, though. Like, this has double basics to play around Wasteland, and I think I want to respect that. All right, my opponent draws. They know I have Lotus Petal. I'll play this. I will play out the Lotus Petal. I'm just going to pass the turn, intending on holding up Bowmasters. Like, some portion of the time my opponent plays around it, and I'm just cool with that. That's fine. At end step, we'll attempt to Bowmasters and just ping this creature. That is a Force of Will, pitching a Delver. This is now a 3/3. I think I'm settling in for that long game. I think it's more important to remove this now and not give my opponent a chance to brainstorm and surveil. I'm just going to give them the land. They can have it for their turn. I don't think mana is the resource that I'm fighting on this game. I think card quality is. I don't want my opponent to have more looks at something like a Murktide Regent. Sure. That's a Spelldancer. Love to draw Bowmasters. So, I think the way this is going is that I attempt to resolve my 3/4 creature that does not die to Lightning Bolt. Yes, that's fine. I will grab my other planes. I already made my land drop. Now, I think I just straight up remove Mercurial Spelldancer right now with Pitch Solitude. Delver is blockable some portion of the time, and I don't want my opponent to untap and brainstorm. And I don't want my opponent to bury me in cards. Some portion of the time, I can block Delver. Or if we trade initiative back and forth, I think that's okay. Nice. Delver is blockable. I will have to decide whether or not I do block if they attack, because if they attack, that represents Lightning Bolt, and I don't want to lose this creature. Ooh, it is another one. And a Brainstorm. So, it'll be a big question, like, does my opponent have some sort of bounce spell that can take Seasoned Dungeoneer out of play? Otherwise, I'm hoping to just run over my opponent. Oh, that's disgusting. I mean, we're getting in there. Sending in for 5-ish damage. There's a Harper Recruiter. I'm fine drawing that. Drawing that means I just jam Seasoned Dungeoneer this turn into days. So here's the attempt at Trap. It is Force of Will, pitching Brainstorm. My opponent's probably on a 2-ish turn clock from Seasoned Dungeoneer. Chain Lightning, sure. This is 7 toughness right now, meaning that it does not die to Chain Lightning, copy Chain Lightning, which matters a lot. But Chain Lightning can just send 6 damage at my face in a rather unfortunate way. Okay, there is not a second basic land in the deck. Spelldancer does remove counters. Yeah, Chain Lightning at my face. First one brings me to 10. Second one brings me to 7. So I'm not dead on board, but it's not great. So I crash on in for 6 or 7 damage. Palace of the Void. I will put that into my graveyard. Opponent goes to 6. I will trap them so that they cannot fetch to clear. They have 0 cards in hand. I get to play Harper Recruiter, which can block a Delver. So, do you draw something that kills me here? It is a Bobble. That is not going to do it. Yep. So my opponent's creature is unblockable. I eat the damage. I go to 5. My opponent can now forge up a Delver if they'd like. If my opponent has an out that can bounce Seasoned Dungeoneer, they should probably Lost Well and Scry 2, though, because they have a card draw coming. Okay, they agree. Alright, so they draw a card. They went bottom, and we're done with that game. We do have to play one more, unfortunately. I think it's crazy to be playing this card in Orcish Bowmaster's World, but, you know, here I am, so who am I to judge? I can play more Ravenloft Adventurers if I want. The initiative is a little risky, though. Like, I'm fine with playing Seasoned Dungeoneer. That card's incredibly powerful. Ravenloft Adventurer is I think I'm good with what I've submitted. Just kind of hoping for some amount of speed and stable mana. Oh, also, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier in the video. Thank you very much to Alexander for giving me a Dealer's Choice donation deck list that let me test this new card. Very much appreciated. How do I play this? Turn 1, Plains, imprint one of the 2 white cards, and then probably Chalice into Cavern of Souls, uncounterable one of the other cards. This is fine. That's a Dragon Rage Channeler. That's a great way to start the game. I don't want to draw that. I always play Plains. I think I always Chrome Mox. I think I'm imprinting this. The hope is that this Chalice resolves. I am fine with it getting forced. I'm not happy if it gets dazed, but I think I just jam here. That's fine. Because I always want to curve into Harper Recruiter on 2. Because, like, that is the thing that gives me a shot at winning this game. Alright. So this Dragon Rage Channeler is not attacking for 3 this turn. And we're hoping that my opponent does not have an immediate removal spell for the Harper, or alternatively that I just draw another creature in my next 2 draws. Okay. So we're safe versus counter spells. My opponent has like Lightning Bolts and Chain Lightnings, and maybe some other flex slot removal that could remove this. We're very happy drawing just about anything other than mana. Like any creature, any removal spell is great. We just don't want to draw lands and artifact mana. All right. 3 card types in graveyard. It's now possible to get attacked for 3 this turn. Wasteland's fine. We have plenty of mana. This means a Harper Recruiter attack is actually happening, which matters a lot. And I will not be trading with Dragon Rage Channeler here. The card draw off the Harper Recruiter just matters so much right now. All right. Come on. Real fucking cool deck. That's brutal. All right. I am going to just play that and pass. We dodged my opponent having removal last turn. I don't know that I can count on that happening another turn here. Oh, it's worse than removal. It's Murktide Regent. So my Harper Recruiter is now quite bad. Like, I can attack it into Murktide to attempt to draw a different card. JK, Harper Recruiter is great. And anyone who didn't have faith in Harper Recruiter, what were you saying? What were you saying about my beloved card? God damn it. Roller coaster of emotion here. I'm going to play Scrubland and pass. I think that Force of Will probably ends this game. Like, I take between 8 and 10 points of damage, and then a lot of my creatures, like Seasoned Dungeoneer, become a real liability to play at this stage. Still think I need this if I'm going to win. But this is so much damage. Alright. Okay. So let's ship in with this. We have missed after looking at 8 cards with Harper Recruiter. Cool. Opponent goes to 13. I am not going to use Cavern on this. I just want to have Cavern for Solitude if I draw it next turn. Play this even. Better play around soft permission. I'm just dead to Lightning Bolt at my face, basically. Not literally, but it's real bad. Alright. No cards. Good stuff. Pass turn. Await my death. Oh, my opponent fetched there. So their hand must have been incredibly bad. Alright. So that draw means that I do have to block this turn or I die. I'm going to trade with Dragon Rage Channeler. This puts me in Lightning Bolt range. Alright. That's a Harper Recruiter. Not dead yet, but it sure looks bad. Alright. That's fine. So we end up with a 2-3 league here. So what do we think of our good friend Harper Recruiter after this league? I don't think I would ever trust my tournament results with this card. This is an incredibly high variance card, and I don't like it. There were multiple times where we looked at 4 cards and we did not hit anything. I think we had 2 different games where for 2 turns in a row, Harper Recruiter just blanked. And you can run the exact numbers if you want to see, like, okay, based on my deck right now, how good or bad is this actually happening? But with a build like this that does have some creatures like Solitude and Orcish Bowmasters that don't fit the creature type, I think this card isn't super playable, unfortunately. I think when White Plume Adventurer still existed, this card would have been the bee's knees. Just absolutely something you want, as it, like, you can stay very heavily on those creature types. But having lost White Plume Adventurer from the format, I think that was a strike against this. And as we saw, Orcish Bowmasters just killing it is another strike against it. So I don't know that I will just be like, you know, I want to play a Harper Recruiter deck again. I'll play it if someone donates and wants to see more of it. But I think I've learned what I needed to learn about this card. It can do some work. It can be the thing that digs you towards more gas. It can spiral out of control. But as an X1, I'm not super excited. That said, it was also something that we sideboarded out a decent amount of time because it has the speed issue, right? Against combo decks, while it can be the thing that digs you to a hate piece, it's just not a hate piece itself. It has no impact in any kind the turn that it comes down. And that's a hard sell at 3 mana when you can be playing, your Phyrexian Censors and your other 3 mana hate bears. Whew. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video regardless, and if you end up wanting to buy all of these Harper Recruiters to torture yourself mentally and physically, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order, and folks, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya. I know what you're thinking. Bill, wasn't this league done? Well, turns out that you all get a bonus round today. This is the tail end of my actual league from yesterday. I can keep a hand that goes Leyline in play, Dark Ritual, Orcish Bowmasters on turn 1, and then kind of does nothing after that unless Reanimate does something cool. So I'm not sure that I'm going to keep this one. Like, turn 1 Orcish Bowmasters on the play is kind of cool, but I just don't think I can do it. How about this second hand? Oh, this is just good stuff, right? I'm going to have to throw back one of these. So, if I throw back this land, I can go Grief, pitch Reanimate, cast Grief, Reanimate, Grief, Dark Ritual, Dalthy Voidwalker. That seems batshit insane. I'm in. So, Vault of Whispers, Dark Ritual, Dalthy Voidwalker, Grief, pitching Reanimate, and this will allow us to put something under Dalthy Voidwalker as well. Hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo! No! There's too many removal cards there. I probably just take the Furies. And we will then reanimate a Grief. Take my opponent's other Fury. And we have 2 3/2s in play. My opponent's Lightning Bolt gets to eat one of them. It presumably needs to eat the Dalthy Voidwalker so that I can't produce a Fury. That's my read on the situation, and my opponent tends to agree. So we're a little behind now. We did something very powerful, but it's just super unfortunate that our opponent had 3 different removal spells in hand. And I think if I take the Lightning Bolt, it's just way too likely that my opponent ends up in a situation where they draw another red card and get to 2-for-1 me, and I just don't think I can deal with that right now. Humorously, given that my opponent had Furies in the hand, it almost would have been better for me. What are you doing? No, you don't want to tap that for mana. Yeah. It almost would have been better for me to not play Dalthy Voidwalker, so I could have just put a Fury into play. But that's not where we're at right now. Opponent's at 14. I've got a respectable clock with Grief that I can back up with Reanimate as soon as I draw a land. Okay. No land, though. My opponent will have superior selection. Dragon Rage Channeler will probably turn into a respectable threat within the next turn cycle, probably, right? Like, this is sorcery, instant land, creature. Yeah, so we're looking at a 3/3 already. We'll see how much worse it is for me than just that. Yeah, so that has to attack now. So my opponent can't hold both of these back, and now the question is, like, will they outrace me? And if I don't draw another land, the answer is yes, right? Because they have me on a 3-turn clock, 6, 12, 18, and I have them on a 3-turn clock, but they get the first attack of these. Not to mention that they still have 4 other cards in hand, like one of which could very easily be a Daze or Force of Will or Lightning Bolt, all of which just make this noticeably worse for me. Ugh. Yeah, I suspect that I am dead. Because, like, both my 1-drop plays that I could draw if I spike a land cost me life, and I don't have any life to spare here. We're looking at fire. How dare you? Alright. I will concede. Note that killing me or killing my creature both would have resulted in wins. So generally speaking, I'm probably going to be okay in this matchup, right? Like I have the Leylines and the Dalthy Voidwalkers, but Fury is incredibly good tech against what I'm doing here with these like small creatures. I have some removal that I can bring in. There's also some worlds where I play Living End, but Dragon Rage Channeler surveilling creatures into the graveyard is a little rough. I think I'm going to go down on things that cost me life, so I think I'm going to go ahead and get rid of Thought Seizes, use those to play a couple of removal spells. And I think I'm going to try to get away with not doing this. I guess Karn also is not great in this matchup. Let's pull that and just play a second Helm. The time spent to cast Karn is really rough. I'm going to keep this hand. There is an argument that you are not supposed to put Leyline of the Void into play to attempt to do Troll Reanimate on turn 1. I'm not going to mess around with that. I'm just going to attempt Reanimate on turn 2 instead and do Troll Cycling at end of turn. Alright, there's a Dragon Rage Channeler. So we'll cycle. Pick up a Swamp. I like this Swamp art, by the way. Am I imprinting? I think I will imprint. I'll imprint the Leyline. I will play Urza's Saga and attempt to throw a troll in play. I do not expect this to resolve. Oh shit, it resolved. Fully was not expecting that. The graveyard's off. I have a Swift Clock. I can back it up with Urza's Saga, eventually getting Shadow Spear. JK. Wasteland's very good. This is a trap. This is Fury. So if I block this, my opponent can trade this plus Fury plus red card for this troll. I'm taking the damage. Fully cannot play into that card here. Another Dragon Rage Channeler. Leyline of the Void looking real hot right now in terms of stabilizing this game for me. But I'm all in on this troll. Some sort of Brazen Borrower card that can bounce the troll would be really bad for me. Otherwise, my opponent would need like to block with 3 creatures or like Lightning Bolt plus Fury or something like that. But this 2 damage is no big deal. Go to 11. And we're chilling. Baleful Mastery. Understood. I'll just attack with the troll first. Ooh, we're doing stuff. Oh, it's ice. Sure. Opponent is playing Surgical Extraction. That's good to know. And then they topped their other card. I am not sure if I am supposed to play Ancient Tomb this turn. I think I don't. I'm just going to play Urborg and pass. I don't think I want to cast Baleful Mastery as of right now. Like, the Dragon Rage Channelers are very good selection right now. No. Oh, on the Leyline. Sure. Fury enters the exile zone. Something else goes on top. So, do I want to Baleful Mastery a Dragon Rage Channeler? And if so, how do I do that? I don't think I want to give my opponent a card here, but like they didn't petty theft the troll, they petty thefted the Leyline. Does that mean something like an Uro is coming and I need to save this? It might. Alright. This might be the point that I Baleful Mastery one of these, because my opponent is about to surveil twice and I might want to deny that advantage. Dazable? I think Dazable. Well, I don't think I was supposed to play out Ancient Tomb last turn. Alright, it's gone. Okay. Alright, only taking 1 here. My opponent's redrawing whatever they did off the Brainstorm. It needs to be something that beats Troll. The Troll cometh. Drops my opponent to 6. I get to now redeploy Leyline, which it makes sense to me that my opponent is going to like counter this, no? So why didn't we bounce the troll? What am I missing? And note that I am viewing this as like they have something that makes this play make sense. Oh, wow. Okay. Surveilled away wasteland. Well, I guess if they're going to die to the troll next turn, they have to answer that. Okay. This is what makes the Furies make sense, and Oliphant is there as well. Okay. My opponent was trying to fish for another card off the Up the Beanstalk draw. Okay. Got it. So my opponent is a little bit bigger than Delver. Thought we were going to be like Delver with bonus tech, but this is more like Up the Beanstalk, Fury, Force of Will, Oliphant nonsense. Okay. So my thought seizes to open up Reanimates are a little bit more interesting than I previously gave them credit for. My Baleful Masteries are a little bit worse than I thought they were. Opposition Agent becomes slightly more attractive. Turn becomes slightly more interesting now that I am going to be under a little bit less pressure than I thought. Let's call this good, though. My opponent's deck is interesting. Leyline in play. Turn 1, Swamp, Chrome Mox, Imprint, Beseech, Hold Up, Orcish Bowmasters is perfectly fine by me. That's a Dragon Rage Channeler. I will probably try to just Bowmaster that on my own turn. Ooh. So, let us Chrome Mox. I think I imprint the Baleful Mastery. Like, I want to resolve this and ping this creature and not give my opponent any surveils while also making cantrips worse. And I want to keep Beseech the Mirror as a backup copy of Helm of Obedience if my spell is countered. Play a Beanstalk. Rats. Probably going to be a fire. It is fire. But I'm perfectly happy like treating Orcish Bowmasters as a removal spell. I have a few too many 4-drops in my hand as of right now. I don't remember the mana count from yesterday, and I don't have the deck list on Magic Online anymore. My opponent's going to wasteland me in my upkeep to just kind of JK. Are we working towards Furies? Let's attempt a Reanimate. Opponent could have Surgical. Negative. We will Bowboy again. I'm very surprised they didn't get wastelanded. But like an Ancient Tomb that turn represented a kill. We're chilling though. Alright. Am I attacking? Yeah. Send these on in. Bolt the Bowmasters. That occurs. Opponent is at 17. I'll pass the turn. I'm so incredibly surprised that I'm not getting wastelanded. I mean, I'm 100% trying this. I'm going to attempt to cast a Helm of Obedience. Force Pitch Murktide. Understood. I'll send in with this Orc. Why am I don't know. It's not Hardcast Fury. I guess this could represent Hardcast Force of Will now. My opponent paused there. They might have a copy of Ice. Something to keep in mind. We're going to attempt to Beseech with Bargain. I am just going to sacrifice the Orc token rather than the Chrome Mox. And we're going to try to get the other Helm in play. And I am going to attempt that. We'll cast this. It's in play. I don't have the necessary mana to immediately activate this and kill my opponent. I'm hoping to draw another land next turn so that I can play Leyline of the Void and then activate Helm. Nice. So, cast a new Leyline. And that is death for my opponent. I think them not wastelanding me cost them that game. And that formally gives us a 4-1 finish for realsy with the deck from yesterday. Or a 5-1 finish if you count the game in the tournament practice room versus in fact. Anyway, folks, I hope you have a great rest of the day. I hope you enjoyed this bonus round. See ya.